Welcome back to Chris in Retro. Tonight's video is going to be sharing a little bit of my own personal story, and I'm going to address a very prominent situation that's around mixed martial arts. But if you know anything about UFC fighting, you know about this one fighter that I'm going to speak about, and what seems to be playing out in a very public way for this man. I want to back up a little bit and speak about addiction and what addiction does and the very nature of why they call it baffling, why outsiders looking in and seeing what it does to people's lives, all the stigmas around you're stupid, what are you thinking, all these things happen because it is just hard to understand how it is that addiction can take over a person's life like it does. I'm not exempt. So my addiction was alcohol, and I'm in recovery from alcohol and all the mental health issues that brought me to that place. My addiction was really triggered by controlling behavior, procrastination, and fear. So if I had a situation that was getting out of control, I was afraid of something, I'd want to get under control. If I couldn't get under control, it'd become more fearful. If I couldn't figure out how to fix it, I would put it off further. And then the further it got put off, the fear would grow because I had a bigger pile coming. And then all of a sudden I needed another solution. Bingo, here comes the bottle to excess. So my party left, and then the bottle became medicine. For somebody like me with a pretty intense personality, whatever it is that I go into that drinking a moment with, is who I am. So for example, if I'm in a happy mood for some reason, I'm happy as heck, man. I'll joke about everything, having a good time. If I am mad, I'll want to fight everybody. So it really depends on what I bring into it and that intensity. And the individual I'm going to speak about here this evening also has that kind of intensity. And I feel like hopefully those like us will listen, and in some rare odd universe that he comes across this message will hopefully recognize that he's not invincible, or people that are in a similar situation. It bothers me significantly to have to speak about this person because I feel that he was such an inspiration, and I'll explain why. As I was in recovery, so I've mentioned that my career was substantial before, and with that, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I had a good career, and I'm thankful that things were going very well. It didn't mean that I was exempt from these other problems. My mental health conditions were clearly a challenge and clearly causing me more issues than I ever probably would even understand. As I lost everything, it didn't just happen at first, like everything gone. It started real slow. So there was some indications. My reputation started to get tarnished. I had some minor criminal offenses. My relationship started to really fall apart a little bit, but it didn't matter because I was still making great money, and I was still winning awards, and I was still seen in the place that I was performing as a high performer. And I was even being called out as a high performer. While inside of me, there was a slow start to roll of the train. And I say it like that because that's really what it feels like. So as this thing starts to roll down your life with addiction and mental health issues that are unaddressed, and you don't do what you can now to stop that train, as it starts to get momentum, it really is rolling by the time things take off. And what I've noticed is that when that sucker happened, it was off the cliff once it really started to become a problem. DWIs, misbehaving arrests, all kinds of nonsense, because I just was gone mentally. I just couldn't think anymore, which ultimately led to my homelessness, basically exile from friends. My reputation was destroyed. And during that season, had I not stopped, I can't even imagine what my life would be like today. So I was able to get to a point where I had a course correction through other people investing in my life and my willingness to participate in that program to find a better life. I believe I caught it at a time when I actually still had a chance to come up swinging. Now, the individual I'm going to share with you some information about, we live two different lives. I've never been a pro athlete, but I've been a professional in the sales environment and in the business environment, with high stakes as well, and awards and those types of things, but certainly not to the level that this man has. My income level is not even in the same planet at any point in my life as what this man makes in a day. I don't think I've ever made in a year, probably. So we are not from the same cloth, but I think as two intense people, I see him unraveling the way I did. And the issue is, as being a very public figure, with the seemingly to himself that he's invincible. And with the amount of money he has and the power he has, it probably adds to the fuel of that all around him, he can still influence the world with that money and what he brings and the power he brings. It's easy for him to continue to destroy himself in himself. He is a human being still. You know, one of the things that really I drew from early on in his career, and I'm going to play a video of it. It was an inspirational conversation that he had, that he mentioned his motivation and how he was going to approach his career. And I'll share that in a minute. But I'm going to first start by sharing a current state of a man. And the man I'm speaking of is Conor McGregor. I've spoke about him on the show before, but to see him publicly, I've seen his evaluation. I'm only going based on what I observe. And at least he's partying to a level, and I'm not the only one to observe it. Jesse on Fire did a great video about this. There's others been more antagonistic videos and using it to really exploit Conor. He's put himself in these positions. For me, and the purpose of this channel is to show how, no matter how powerful you are, we're seeing the unraveling of a man. And if you're in your life are in that place where you really feel like you're in control, I would argue you're probably not. And that locomotive of addiction is really starting to take off. Now I'll share this video real quick for you. Pull it up. Now I want you to listen to his words and how he's expressing himself and his thoughts. Now, if you don't know Conor McGregor, I'll give you some context and you'll see that in the end. But notice how he's speaking here.
The whole lot. It's almost like torture to me, because this point seeing you now, if you would have
so he's focusing on how it's torture to him to not drink this. Now I understand he's just trying to pump up this brand that happens to be his own brand, that's his own pub, and he's always trying to promote his own stuff. So that's a smart businessman. But as you see, as he gets into the conversation for more, his thoughts are confused and repetitive.
I'm not going to drink it. I'm not going to drink because I'm going to train 3 times a day.
He's going to train 2 times a day.
I tell you why. When I trained this morning, I don't usually train 3 times.
Oh, he's going to train 3 times a day. I'm sorry.
I just feel like 3 times a day.
So I'm going to train 3 times a day. I don't usually train 3 times a day, but this morning I feel like 3 times a day.
I'm a little man. There's a big fight tomorrow for KD, and Sam 18, you know what I mean? I love it so much, and I'm so invested in it, and I want to say I do well. I wanted both ladies and all the competitors to be safe as well. So I'm going to train 3 times because it's going to take that anxiety out of it. I trained this morning with my boxing coach Phil. I'll do some weight training later on, and then I'm going to do sprints tonight to finish off tonight.
So basically what he was describing there, he's on The Ultimate Fighter. He's one of the coaches on The Ultimate Fighter, and he really just tried to describe in a muddled, disorganized way that he's going to train 3 times a day and coach these guys. And it's a way for him, as I gather, to help him deal with anxiety. But, at the very least, I think it's pretty fair to say that he's been drinking. Earlier in the interview, he claimed he was not. So I'll stop with that one. I'm going to share with you another video here. And again, I'm not trying to build a case against Conor or disparage his name in any way. I'm showing how it happens for all of us, not just Conor McGregor. But I just happen to be out of sports. I've had very few people that I've been such a huge fan of early in his career, not so much how he's behaving now, but early in his career, I don't think I've ever been a fan of any individual sport athlete that I was Conor McGregor.
I want to see it again now.
Now, this is after Garcia just lost to Tank Davis. Ryan Garcia lost to Tank Davis. He's back in the locker room trying to give him some kind of inspiration, and this is that speech.
I want to see the no dehydration. You are party too. You could pack him with the lead hook. Mate, all the respect in the world to you. You're the future. Your future is staying. And I'm watching you all the way. I wish you all the best.
Okay. So I'm going to steal Jesse on Fire's comments relative to this. So as you can see, people around him are applauding every stinking thing he says, like he's delivering some major address, and he's not. So even in something in what's a moderate intoxicated state, I would argue, he may not have been, but it just appears that way. And you'll see why I think that. He's getting applauded. Like he's got so many yes men around him that he's not even recognizing that he's falling apart. And I had a similar situation. I was not a star like that. I didn't have people around me that were saying, "Hey, whoa, time out, Chris." you're really a mess. And we've noticed you've been intoxicated like heavily at every event that you're going to. What is going on here? Nobody really did that. And we insulate ourselves. Our mind says everything's okay so long as that's going on. Now, I am not blaming that on the crowd around him. His own choices around substance use are his own choices. My thought on this is that he is an intense personality, and I happen to have a intense personality as well. I've been told that most of my life. I even was in my first marriage. I remember a pastor marriage counselor was had one of the observations he had. It was that my personality was intense, and it was going to be something I was going to have to consider as I was in relationships. So, and that played out that way because that marriage didn't last. So, and over my life, it's proven to be a Achilles heel at times. But when you start adding substance use in here, and now you add the power and the money and the endless opportunities. There's nobody around him really, other than some bad press and now some observations about it saying, whoa, time out, Conor, you're really going to lose everything. Because from his perspective, at this point in his life, he's not. And I'm not on here saying he's about to lose everything because he really is not yet. So now I talked about how he had something that was so inspirational. And for those of my audience that don't care for swearing, there's a couple spots in here where we're swearing a little bit, but please keep in mind, the message that he's sharing here. And this was one of the most motivational things. And I'll tell you the reason that I thought of doing this video is because this was the thing that I still draw from today. I've used it on my current sales team to motivate them and push them forward with times that we're going through. This speech, this idea and concept about where your focus needs to be in extreme situations of competition. And I find this to be one of the most inspirational things I've heard. And it was a real catalyst for me as I was getting my life back from homelessness to get my career back. I mean, I'm not supposed to be doing what I'm doing for a living again. I was flat out told I wasn't going to, and I'm doing it again and doing very well. And it was because of attitudes like this that I could co-sign and people around me helping me. But here is the video that has that speech. If you want to watch the whole thing, it's called Always Move Forward.
I'm not afraid. Trust me. No. What do you think I'm afraid of, like? Man, I would fight that guy in a heartbeat. I would fight anything in a heartbeat.
So for those that don't know, he's like, they just threw out the name Jose Aldo. And the reason they threw out Jose Aldo at the time, Jose Aldo was the pound for pound best fighter in the world. He was undisputed champion. He was a problem for everybody. I mean, he would kick the legs right out from underneath people as a Brazilian, former Brazilian. He is another one that had some real tough childhood, made his way up through poverty, extreme poverty in Brazil, and became a world champion fighter. Great backstory, and was an excellent champion. And they threw out his name, and here Conor McGregor is a brand new fighter in the UFC saying, who is he? What is he, afraid of me? It's brash, but it's a belief, and he'll explain it further.
I will go forward, and I will go at him. You know what I mean? It's a fight at the end. It doesn't matter who. There is no opponent. There's no Jose Aldo. Who the fuck is Jose Aldo? There's no one. You're against yourself. You know what I mean? You're against yourself.
You know what I mean? You're against yourself. So I point that out because that video really was a concept for me that I could really believe in. And when all things were cloudy, that worked for me. I could believe that was true. I was my only opponent. And it was up to me to deal with that opponent. And so that notion was the thing that saved me from addiction. And so I guess I'm going to steer a little bit in this. And if you're a Conor McGregor that has all this power, if you feel like you're invincible, which I believe he does right now, and if you're Conor McGregor and you're watching this, you're probably okay right now. Your people still are clapping at you for speeches with Ryan Garcia. You still have money beyond what most people could ever even understand what it is. You're still on Lamborghini yachts and avoiding testing pools because of your power and because of what you bring to a promotion. They want to do everything possible to keep you there. You have your fellow opponents calling you a legend. People that are going to fight you in the future recognize you as a legend and a game changer and a person that did great things for the sport in terms of fighter pay and bringing attention to the sport in a positive way. You truly are all those things. You and others in your life right now, you might have done great things and being a game changer in your own lives. Addiction does not care. Alcohol does not care. Cocaine does not care. And those are the two substances that are widely believed to be the things that he's abusing. They don't care. There's no dollar amount. There's no fame. There's no nothing that won't destroy you as a person. The construct around you might live on, but how are you as a person? And here's where I'll play that out. Alcohol in my life or substance uses, they don't care about how long it takes. The substance doesn't care. Your mental health doesn't care. It will wait. It will hunt you. It will chase you down, and it'll wait. And time will go, and it'll take you out. Always. There's no moderation for somebody struggling with addiction. You're not, I believe that we talk about harm reduction and things like that, but I honestly believe, especially with alcohol, there's moderation. It is a dangerous, dangerous thing, especially when you're at the extreme point right now that even in public settings, you can't control it to the point knowing full well the world's eyes are on you. What happens as time goes on and you age? You're not the center of the show anymore. You're not the one everybody looks to. Nobody around you is wanting to see what your next move is. They're curious because you once were. But are you the old lion that people respected and still offer respect to as time gets us, like it all does for all of us, and you were not the latest and greatest? When our pride has to be put in check, that our value is what we give back to others and not what we represent currently of ourselves? Or are you going to be that desperate soul that's mocked, shunned, thought of as a disappointment, and missed opportunities? Conor's not the only one. You think of Johnny Bones Jones, who seems to be making somewhat of a turnaround right now, which I'm glad for John Jones. He's from our area in Rochester, and he was one of the greatest talents of all time, in my opinion, and still is in a lot of ways. But he threw a lot away for addiction. Most of his career, squandered an entire career from addiction because the same thing again, he felt invincible. Then all of a sudden, over time, that invincibility started to chip away, and he was almost left with nothing. And now he's on his last chance. And he doesn't have the big business that Conor does. What I would say is that even in Conor McGregor's world, with all these millions of dollars floating around him and all this power and all these rumors of people he's tied to and all this other stuff, there's none of that can save you if you're an addict. None of it. Because over time, maybe his fiance is going to be tired of it. What if his kids come of age and they don't want to see dad's annex anymore and they become distant and it breaks his heart? What if that relationship's gone and then he's left to his own, he's turned over to his own ways. All he has is his own whims and squandering that. That's a fertile breeding ground for addiction to kill you, actually. Conor has not avoided law, impacts of the law. He's had a number of charges with crazy things he's done. What happens if he kills somebody in a car, or if some physical altercation turns into death? My grandfather, in just a regular old street fight, punched somebody and they hit their head and died. How much more so? And he got in a bunch of trouble for that. He was an alcoholic. He, thank God, ended his days in recovery. But somebody like Conor, who's to say that wouldn't happen with him? And now what happens? My point of all this is that over time, it starts to fade like a train. It starts to really slowly go. And then when that sucker gets going, by the time it starts to really take off, oftentimes it's too late to stop it. The destruction is going to come. And now what do you do with all the burning embers around you? No matter how many millions and billions you have, if Conor loves his kids like he portrays he does, his faithful fiance has been alongside him like as long as she has through everything. If that is his best friend, how's he going to feel in his latter life when all he has is all these hollow people around him that'll clap over a basic speech, and the real core of who he is gone? If you look at how he's lived his career, he's got the same team around him that he had when he started the career. That to me says that loyalty matters to him. He speaks to his Irish heritage, and I can tell you with a Scottish Welsh heritage, I align with that. I understand that's something that means something to us. We can draw from that warrior spirit. So apparently loyalty matters to him. What happens when those around him just can't take it anymore? And they start to separate. We're not all Conor McGregor. Many of us have similar personalities. Many of us have done very well in life, and we have circumstances around us that insulate us so that we don't ever have to really face our problems until oftentimes it's too late. It's not a poor, pitiful story. It just means that we have to recognize that, just as this show we talk about all the time, your high-risk living and your high-risk choices, your total collapse is a lot closer than you think it is. We think we're being slick, but there's no dollar amount and there's no status that can save you from total destruction. We've seen it over and over again. All it takes is one enemy that's more powerful that wants you out of the way. It takes one circumstance. It takes a society that's sick of you. In this woke generation, it takes one mistake there and you're gone. If you're in Conor's situation, why are all these like compromising pictures being taken? What's his inner circle doing to him already? Recognize with substance use, if you feel like this is something that you're not, maybe you don't even recognize that you're powerless over it. Maybe you just know that you're just knowing it's part of your life the entire time. Pause for a minute and start to see, what does this look like in 10 years for me? When my current state has changed, is this benefiting me? Am I using something at a level that's going to destroy my life? Appreciate you guys taking the time to hear through this. In the odd event that Conor McGregor sees this, get help, man. Get help. I'm not judging you in any way, shape, or form. There were so many people around me that saw me falling and did nothing but comment about me falling. Not a single person came to me in a way that made sense for me that I would hear. At the end, I wouldn't listen to anybody, and I hope you're not there yet. Because if you are at that point, you've got a long road to go before you can start having peace and having a life that's worth living. No matter what you have around you, in you is not going to be settled until you get this dealt with. For everybody that tunes in here today, man, please consider where you are. I hear a lot about people's relationship with alcohol, your relationship with your substances, hear about harm reduction, everything else. Man, it's just chaos. I got news for you. I don't care where you're at with it. It's just chaos. And I don't know about you, but at my age, I'm kind of freaking sick of chaos. Maybe being an ornery Scotsman, maybe that was why I got sober in the first place. I got sick of chaos. I don't know. But I appreciate you guys very much. Please consider your own lives and which decisions you're making. Recognize that the high risk living, just because everything seems now like it's good, or you got so much power that you can't foresee any scenario when you lose everything. I promise you, with addiction, it is savvy, it's cunning, it's a spiritual element of your life, and it can wipe you out no matter who you are. Get help. Thanks, guys. From now until the next time we talk, please stay out of trouble.